welcome. I'm joined today by Stephanie. Welcome, Stephanie. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Getting on smoothly.
Smoothly, jolly good. So, you are a best-selling author.
Yep.
Best-selling author of "I Can Be a Dog Detective" and "The Magic of Holistic Grooming."
Yep.
So that's pretty awesome. You run or own the Holistic Grooming Academy, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know it sounds so strange saying you're a best-selling author. Can't quite believe it, but yeah, it's it's crazy. Just me.
Yeah. I aim to be one day. I just haven't got around to it yet.
I'll show you how to do it. It's easy.
Oh, fair enough. That'd be good. So you're the owner of the Holistic Grooming Academy, and we'll talk about that in a bit later. But I always like to start these sort of chats off with just finding out a little bit about yourself, how long you've been dog grooming for, what brought you into the industry, etc., etc. So perhaps you can just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I started grooming 4 years ago now. Before that, I was a disc jockey for 8 years. I ran my own entertainment firm. And basically family life was the main kind of motivator for me to change career. Obviously no kid wants to see their mum goes to clubs and DJs. So I realised quite quickly that I had to change career path. And you know, I spent loads and loads of time thinking about what kind of industry to get into. And the reality is that I felt really good when I spent time with my dogs at home. And obviously having Tibetan Mastiffs, double coats, quite a demanding grooming ritual every night. And I thought, you know, it actually makes me feel really good doing it. It's quite therapeutic, which was good for my anxiety and my depression. So I thought, why not just do that for a living? And then the rest is history. So I did my training and opened up a salon literally 30 days after.
Oh, wow.
And I was jumping into the deep end. But yeah, that's basically how I started anyway.
So how long I'm going back to the disc jockey, the DJ thing, because that's actually one of my ambitions, is to learn how to do mixing and stuff like that. So what sort of things were you doing? You're actually going into nightclubs, playing like big nightclubs and stuff?
Yeah,
Wow.
relatively big nightclubs, not too big a nightclub. I was asked to go and DJ abroad, but I never ever did it. I went to college, I did my HND in music and then musical theatre, so it was always very artsy. But I had a passion for singing, so I kind of went down that route rather than the kind of mixing industry. So it was more karaoke hosting and quiz nights and things like that, because I was really into kind of engaging with people and engaging with crowds in that sense. So I did that for like 8 years. Carried it on even after starting grooming. Obviously that was my bread and butter at the time. But what I ended up doing was just subcontracting all my gigs out to different DJs in the area, and that became quite a good business just doing that. And that was enough to obviously then support my business in dog grooming as well, which was really good. So I think I only shut that down well, actually after the first lockdown, obviously, because obviously all the pubs and clubs shut down, so there was no longer business there, unfortunately. So
it's really interesting things you get to know about people and find out. Wow.
I don't look like the face of a DJ at all.
What does a DJ look like? I mean,
it's quite stereotypical, isn't it? But yeah.
So what? So you then took yourself away and learned how to get into dog grooming. Qualified qualifications or?
Glad you asked that question. So obviously we all go into dog grooming different ways. I decided to do my OCN level 3 diploma through a training centre just up the road from me. So it was 30 days intensive training. And I'll be honest, I didn't enjoy it. I felt like there was lots of things that needed to be covered that weren't. And I wasn't too confident at the other end of it either. I wasn't confident enough to sit an exam. I decided to not take my exam. Right? Bought a salon, jumped in the deep end, started attending seminars and workshops, studying online and practicing as I went. Then I started to learn more about holistic care, canine behaviour, body language, etc. and decided that qualifications just weren't for me at that time, just because I feel as though they're all quite aesthetic driven. And I was more kind of going down the route of holistic care. So there was a kind of conflict of interest. So I spent the next 3 years unqualified, but built up a really good, successful business in the process of. So a majority of my clients were all very much specific to, dogs that required a more specialised approach. They needed the combination of canine behaviour and safe handling, not just. So it was like more comfort grooms driven than it was breed standard grooms driven.
Yeah.
Started publishing, my findings and what I kind of felt holistic grooming was, and received quite a lot of whiplash and as a result of that. So it became quite controversial in the industry quite quickly, which was not what I was expecting. But, it's character building at the end of the day. But
there's a lot of strong opinions out there.
Yes. But you know what? It's one of those ones that it always kind of rang in the back of my head that no matter what you do, you're still going to have that, and you're still going to have people there that are going to say you're not qualified, so you don't really have a leg to stand on. So I taken my exam, just before lockdown hit, and I failed it.
Yeah.
That was like, I think 2 years after I took my training, I failed it, because I basically did things the way I believed was right to do it, right? So I didn't use restraints. I gave the dog plenty of breaks in between, so I probably went over my time quite a bit. I didn't touch nails because this dog I didn't feel required it. Just, there was quite a lot of things that were marked down. And that put me off for ages, and I had my, kind of had my confidence knocked as well at that point. So I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
But I've qualified since then. So in fact, I just qualified. When was my last exam? It was last week. So I finally got my qualifications. So I'm level 3 OCN qualified, and I did it my way, which is even better. Just slight adaptations, obviously, as I've went, but it's quite funny because the lady that examined me, she put on my report, I passed by 69%. So that's like the cut-off of what you can pass. But she said the only reason why I passed it at 69% is, and I love this, it's because I'm an unorthodox groomer. Which is a compliment to me. I think she was quite afraid of saying it to me, but I was quite complimented because at the end of the day, I passed it and I did it the way that I teach. So, it's verification and validation to me that, there can be 2 different approaches to grooming and you can still pass your qualification regardless of which route you go down.
Yeah.
So I'm finally glad to say that I'm qualified.
You're just fully qualified groomer now.
Yes. I know, so Grooming Spotlight, I'm coming for you.
Excellent. I'm sure they'll be happy to have you on board.
Yeah.
So where did you went into the grooming industry, and I completely agree, like a 30-day course is, it's intense, isn't it? And there's so much to learn. And you'll be learning all throughout your career. I don't think you ever stop learning.
Yeah.
So 30 days is a tough challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I sort of say this to new groomers that come out, you can't expect to come out of grooming school and then just hit the ground like doing loads and loads of dogs, because it's just not possible, is it? You don't want to do that either. So you've come out of grooming school, you've decided not to take your exam. What you're obviously a dog lover and a dog owner, so you've started looking into alternative ways of grooming dogs or handling dogs and dealing with dogs. Tell us about that.
Well, I just wanted to expand on my knowledge base, to be honest, because one of the things that I observed while training was that the use of physical handling restraints kind of took the place of basic observation and communication skills. And for me, I wanted to learn more about that part. I wanted to learn how to actually understand what dogs were communicating and how to make it a wee bit more enjoyable for both, because it was a very stressful environment to work in where I was training in. Certainly, it was like a cattle market. There was so many dogs there, so many groomers. And you never really got that one-to-one service either of, getting shown how to do things. So it was very much a case of, right, strap the dog up, just get it done as quickly as you can. And if it's aggressive, then give it to a more more experienced groomer. And that made me feel uncomfortable because I felt as though when I'm on my own and I've opened my salon, what do I do then? I don't have these people to rely on. So I decided to go down the route of canine behaviour and safe handling. So I went to the ISCP, which is the International the International School of Canine Psychology. And I did a diploma in safe handling and I got a distinction for that. And then that kind of spurred me on to do more. So I went on to do my level 5 canine behaviour. And then I did that and I passed that as well. And that just made so much of a difference to the way that I was actually working with the dogs in my care. Because I did start off, it was just very much the way I was trained. Lots of, handling devices, whatever. But I just wasn't happy with the results I was getting. And it just slowly kind of transitioned to the way that I do things now, the more I learn and continue to learn, I suppose. So
you went away and did some more research and started to find your own way, isn't it? And find your own way of doing things. Yeah.
Kind of dabbled into Reiki and things like that as well, because I quite like the holistic approach to things anyway. My husband's a holistic therapist.
Oh, I see.
So it's very much kind of up my street anyways, but it was just trying to make the grooming environment a more enjoyable, less stressful experience for everybody. And being an anxious person myself, I felt like I needed that. And it is, it is what it is.
So talk us through like a dog coming into your care, into your salon. How would your salon perhaps differ to our salon with regards to holistic sort of ideas? And
so I adapt my salon to suit the individual needs of a dog. So from the very beginning, if I get an inquiry through, I first have a phone consultation, which is quite a thorough consultation. It's just trying to get an idea of, first of all, the guardian's expectations, because if they are looking for a show standard chin, then I'm not going to be right for them. I'm not qualified to do that at all.
The dog's probably not right for that either, is it? Because they're contacting you for a reason, probably.
Well, probably, yeah, because I do niche down quite a bit, I have to say. At the beginning, I didn't. Certainly now I've kind of worked up that reputation in my area that I only specialise now for dogs with, a past history of bite or, aggression of some sort. But so there's a consultation on the phone first of all, and that kind of gives me kind of rough idea of what that dog needs in terms of environment and approach. Then they come in for a meet and treat, which is basically completely non-invasive. It's set up with basically ACE-free work. I know you've spoke about ACE-free work before. So there's ACE-free work in the environment all set up for them. And I just sit and speak to the guardian on a kind of informal basis. We just get to know one another a wee bit better while I'm observing the dog doing what the dog does, If the dog initiates contact, that's fantastic. If not, it doesn't matter. It's very informal. And then from there, I devise a bespoke care plan. And that's basically just what I think the dog needs based on what I've observed that day. So that could be similar to a puppy university package, or it could just be going straight for a bath and a dry. It's just whatever the dog's given me, basically, whatever I'm getting from that. And then we just work our way up.
So it's a very individual approach, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a slow process initially. Because it's really hard to tell what dogs are going to be able to cope with initially as well. So it is a bit of an experimentation process, but it's unbelievable. I've got a client that comes in to me now, Ziggy, who used to have to be sedated every single time. Bit owners, bit guardians, bit groomers, bit everyone, What ended up happening was that through basically trial and error, we realised that 1 hour appointments were just far too much for that dog. And we had to shorten the sessions down. So now he comes to me every 2 weeks for half an hour. And I'm able to do more in half an hour than I can in a full hour. So it's just about that adaptation approach to suit the individual needs of the dog.
So obviously in your salon, you don't have any restraints or anything like that.
Not true. No, I do, yeah. So I think, do you know what it is? I think a lot of the stick I used to get was because, you know, in the canine behavior world, you're using terms like force-free, fear-free, you know, stress-free. They're quite misleading. Personally speaking, I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible to go force-free, stress-free, or fear-free, because dogs aren't going to choose to come to the groomers anyway. So you're already forcing them into something with having them there. It's just about limiting that stress and making sure you're not going over that emotional threshold. So I use handling restraints if, for example, I have an elderly dog who struggles to stand. Then, a really nice thick padded belly strap is ideal for that in short positive bursts. So it's more to do with the approach, how we introduce it, and then obviously how long you have that dog there. So it's more to do with relying on your observation. Is this dog coping, or is he too stressed? Do we need to give him a break and put him down, etc.? And I do obviously do a lot of home floor grooming as well, but it just depends on the individual dog.
So rather than just going straight for X, Y, and Z, it's like observation on the dog and seeing what's
I think, yeah, the initial meeting is definitely all focused on observation. And you can implement the use of, treats and things. If you're quite savvy about it, you can ask the guardian, what kind of treats does he like? You can have that there in place, and you can maybe scatter some on the floor, and they start to build up that positive association with you and treats, and that's just kind of breaking the ice, so to speak. But the initial contact made with the dog, to me, is his choice, not mine. So now we have a dog come in, and you're like, oh yay, hi, you run up and you give them cuddles and things. I don't do that. I just let the dog come to me, and if he's quite comfortable with that, then we'll proceed to the next step.
I was talking to my wife earlier about music in the salon and things like that, and how obviously, if you've got heavy rock going on, maybe that might not be the most appropriate.
Raises your heartbeat. Yeah.
And we were just discussing what they do in the salon, what music they have, and whether Emma noticed any difference in the dogs. And obviously, different music to us can cause us stress, so it must be the same. Do you have do you play particular music, or do you avoid music, anything like that?
Again, it depends. If I feel like a dog's quite stressed, then I would rather have nothing, because obviously something else added into the environment is an additional emotional load. So it could add to the kind of anxiety the dog's feeling. If I feel that the dog's not that anxious, then I have a thing called Relaxo Pet. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's like a wee device, and it's for dogs, and it's like it's just like it's instrumental. But what happens is it senses when a dog's unsettled, and it starts automatically. But then when the dog's not, like obviously when the dog's fine, it stops playing, and it only kind of comes in. And it's had good results actually. But I've heard as well that reggae works really well. And again, also talking. It could be even just something on the radio that's, just talking. Could be quite soothing to a dog as well, but it just all depends on the dog, really. I don't have it there all the time.
And about smells, because obviously dogs' their sense of smell is very powerful. So do you do anything special in the salon for smells?
All my products are as fragrance free as you can get. I don't use doggy perfumes. I don't use perfumes on myself. I'm probably really smelly, but it's trying to just reduce the amount of smells that's going on. If we're thinking about from a holistic perspective, we're trying to consider like all the senses combined and how that actually contributes to the emotional baggage that dog's holding on to. So it's trying to just remove as many as we can, so that it's as neutral as we possibly can.
So obviously having other dogs in the environment is a no-no, isn't it? Because you're like you said, you're trying to remove all that.
For me, my approach certainly is one dog, like 1-to-1. Only since I've obviously learned more. At the beginning, I used to take families where they maybe had 2 or 3 dogs at a time. And I suppose, like, I've heard other groomers say they've had great results for bringing in like an older dog with a puppy that they've just brought home, and them learning, you know, good behavior and things. And obviously I can't comment on that because I've never had experience with that. But me personally, I just feel like it's a lot better to have that opportunity, especially in the early days, just to have that one-to-one time where you can really just dedicate it to the dog and the dog doesn't have to worry about distractions. That being said, I do welcome the guardian in quite a lot as well, which a lot of groomers probably go, no. I love it. I love it. I love having a guardian there.
But do you find that sometimes the stress that the guardian has, that starts to rub off onto the pet? You know, they come through the door like clutching their little pet, saying, he's not going to like it, they're not going to like it, they're going to hate it. I'm so sorry for bringing you here, you know.
Oh, bless. No, do you know, I think that's why the meet and treat is so important, though, because they're coming to the environment the first time round a lot more relaxed because they know that there's no grooming going to take place. You know, so they're coming there to go, right, okay, we're just having an informal chat. My dog's going to get to chill out. He's going to get to walk around, blah, blah, blah. I don't have to worry so much about this. And then you can then use that time to kind of reassure them, this is how the process is going to go. You know, don't worry about anything. We're not going to push them over threshold, etc. And you're just putting that kind of peace of mind there that they don't have to worry and stress so much, you know. So I think having that meet and treat service, and I know that more groomers these days are doing them, it's just giving them that opportunity to put their minds at rest.
Well, not just that, it's also sort of meeting the customer and making sure you want to work with the customer as well, isn't it?
Also safety aspect.
Yeah.
You know, when you're working one-to-one, because, well, when I worked in the salon, I used to have a high street salon, and now I work from home, but in the high street salon, there's always a kind of concern in the back of my mind as well, because you don't know who you're welcoming in to your salon, first of all, especially being one-to-one. So just making sure that you feel comfortable and relaxed, you know, meeting strangers, and what kind of safety measures you have in place to make sure that you feel safe. It's a big topic, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Being a lone worker. So you obviously you created this business, holistic grooming, and this little niche for yourself where you are, and I take it other groomers recommend you for particular dogs that are having issues. The vets sort of got on board. Are they recommending you as well?
Yeah, I've got a good relationship with vets, which is really good because they're probably where the majority of my dogs come from. If not the vets, other behaviourists in the area, or other groomers, like you say. But it's a tit for tat, because I also recommend lots of dogs to other groomers. I know my capabilities as a stylist versus my approach for handling. So if I think that a dog's confident enough to, you know, have a more breed standard light trim, then I'll definitely recommend. And I've got loads of groomers in the area that I would recommend, you know, so who are all kind as well. It's not like I'm saying, you know, I'm the only person that's treat your dog good. It's not that at all. It's getting people to understand that there's a difference between, you know, what I'm doing with, you know, dogs that have got quite deep-rooted trauma and things like that, compared to, you know, taking them to somewhere that's more commercial based and more conventional. And that difference.
I suppose the way I saw it is you'd have a dog that comes along with particular issues that need working with. You've got the time and the setup to help that dog get over those issues. Sometimes that dog will get over them, and I take it that's where you then say, right, you've kind of been rehabilitated. I don't know if that's the right word. It's time to move on to a high street or a commercial groomer. But this dog is, you know, it's too deep. It's too deep. The problems are too deep. So it's going to stay.
Incline. Yeah. I mean, ideally, in an ideal world, I'd love for all groomers to implement the approach that I teach, because I think it would benefit every single person. I genuinely do. And I think it's trying to just kind of make it clear what we're actually promoting and what we're teaching, so that people aren't put off straight away because they hear the word holistic, or they hear the words force-free or fear-free or whatever, and they suddenly put their hackles up and they're like, no, it's not possible, dangerous, blah, blah, blah. And it's really not. It's just about adapting your approach slightly for your more anxious dogs, but there are cases where a dog's going to be that, deeply traumatized that they're not going to be able to handle commercial setup at all. And they do need a more one-to-one service.
So it might be even just being able to spot that, or being able to understand that, and then having that conversation with the owner or the guardian saying, I don't think this is going to work out for your dog because of X, Y, and Z sort of thing.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to open the academy and teach this? It's
lockdown, first of all, and being bored stiff. Obviously, everyone was struggling over lockdown. But I just think I'm just really passionate about handling in canine behaviour, and I think that that's just a massive gap in the market. And I think that lockdown brought a really good opportunity for groomers to learn more about it, because they didn't have anything else to do really. And hopefully all of them got a wee bit of money as well behind them. So government funding and whatnot. So I was counting on people having a wee bit of money spare to kind of invest in a different approach to their education. So you know how we're usually kind of invested in our seminars for practical. I wanted them to try and kind of tap into the theory behind canine behaviour. So I wanted to introduce something that was reputable, that people would start kind of shown interest in.
So tell us about the course that you offer.
So the course at the moment is CPD approved and accredited through the Complementary Medical Association, which is an international organisation. So it's backed by CPD UK and the CME, which is really good.
And that's no mean feat either, is it? Because I've looked at CPD, and it's a difficult thing to get going and to put your courses through.
It's the paperwork, I think it is. It's the paperwork and having the right structure and having the right marking criteria to make it all fair and concise. But to be honest, I'm a geek, so that was like, yes, I can wait to get started. But once it's done, and then you just have to pay your fees each year and make sure you're consistent with it, and that's it. But it's online based, so it's distance learning, and it combines practical and theory, so it is quite advanced. It's a 12-month course, so it's technically 10. We give you 10 months, but we usually extend it to 12, just in case you have resubmissions and whatnot. And each student has their own designated tutor who's also very experienced in the field of holistic grooming. So right now it was just me, because it was me that pioneered the approach, obviously, but now I've got 2 more tutors on board, which is amazing, and they're awesome. And what happens then is the students go through a series of 10 units, and they all cover different aspects of what I believe holistic grooming is. And they have to do an assessment at the end of each one. And the assessment, like I said, is a combination of theory, so it is essay-based, and Harvard reference-based, but also a series of practical demonstrations. So whether you do it, I'm actually thinking of doing live Zooms, the way that obviously all the other kind of centres do, but right now it's pre-recorded.
Yeah.
And they just send it in, and it means then it takes the pressure off them, because I hate exams. And it was just a different approach to obviously compensate for people's nerves and things like that. So that's it at the moment. However, I have been working hard to get it into an official qualification. So rather than just CPD points, it would be the equivalent of a level, what did I say? I wrote it down. It would be equivalent of a level 6 of qual. But I'm doing it through the Scottish Qualifications Authority, because I'm Scotland based, obviously, but it's internationally recognised anyway, so you could take it anywhere and still mean the same. So it's currently going through the process of being approved for official qualification status.
So level 6, that's quite high, isn't it?
It's technically a degree, like a bachelor's degree, yeah. Oh. So yeah, but it's a lengthy process as well. But the SQ got in touch with me 2 weeks ago to say that that's the Holistic Grooming Academy now being authorised as an SQA approved centre. So that's the first step ticked. And the next step now is just to get it through that level. but I don't think they see any problems, so that's exciting.
Yeah. So what's a level 6 going to look like? Is it going to be, do you know or can you say it, what it's going to look like to teach?
They'll have to go away and they'll work out what I need to do to add on to it. But it will have to probably be a wee bit more bulkier. So I might have to add some substance to it. But the target market for the qualification isn't for already qualified groomers, because obviously they've invested loads of money in their qualification anyway. So the ideal kind of step forward for those people would be the CPD course, which is £999, right? This qualification would be the equivalent of your qualifications in practical styling, because it's going to have to cover an aspect of practical grooming, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the only difference it's going to have is, rather than focusing on breed standard trims, it's going to be focusing all on comfort grooms and pet trims. So it's very much holistic and welfare based rather than breed standard based. So it's more of a niched qualification, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So that must make sense.
So this is the first time I've actually talked about it.
Exclusive.
So I don't even know if I'm explaining it right, but I'm really excited about it. I do think it's a massive market. There's so many groomers that have contacted me saying if there had been a holistic grooming qualification when they first started, they would have taken that over, the level 3 OCN or whatever it was taken. So
are there any requirements being a level 6? Do you need any educational requirements to then take it? Do you know? Or?
I would just say experience, probably. It's obviously going to have quite a lot of written and theory. Yeah. So if you can't obviously commit to the academic structure of it, then it probably wouldn't be for you. So probably will be, that's their job to come back and tell me, to be honest, whether or not it might be a case of GCSEs or whatever it is that they might need to have beforehand to do it. The good thing about it is it's a customised award, technically speaking, so it means then that I've got exclusive rights to it. So it means no other training centre can take it on and teach it unless I give them permission to, which is good.
You need to license it out.
Yeah.
And will you be looking to do that, like the rest of the UK, Ireland?
Yeah. I mean, the SK have already said that it can be internationally taught as well, so it will have credence overseas, because a lot of my students are overseas, right? Like America based, and Philippines, and where's the other, Canada. But yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
there's got to be some trips coming up to go out and investigate.
I would love to put it through my business account, just go on holiday. Yeah, so I think I do want to have other training centres, but they have to be the right fit.
Yeah.
I have been approached by other awarding bodies asking to take the course on for me. And it didn't sit right with me, because I felt as though it would quite quickly become a money-making scheme, and people would just have it there just to make more money, and I don't want it to be. I want it to try and be quite affordable for everybody, but only being taught to the people that are genuinely interested in the approach.
I think you're going to have to be. I think it's going to be aligned with your values, and it's going to sit like you said. The qualification that you took didn't sit right with you. No. And I think other people will resonate with that sometimes, and everyone's obviously different, but I think it's going to have to be something that you really sort of want to do, or it sparks that interest.
It's a really tough approach to have. It is, because it's initially it's the time it takes initially to try and build up a dog's confidence again, where you could easily just strap them up and just put a muzzle on them and just do it, quick and put like a kind of band-aid to strip it off. Whereas this process is very much, working in cooperation tactics and things, and really just seeing that kind of gradual and consistent difference every single time. But long term, it just makes the biggest difference.
What I find sort of really interesting about the whole pet grooming industry, so my wife started her business in 2005, so I've sort of been watching it over those years, and how the last, I don't know, correct me, 5, 6, 8 years, it is just kind of, everything's kind of exploded. And there's so much to the industry now than what maybe there was 17 years ago. There's so much niche markets, there's so much choice in what you can do. I mean, equipment alone is just like exploded as well, isn't it?
You spend a bloody fortune. Like, here's one for you. I'll show you what I just recently bought, and you're going to look at me and go, blank, I haven't a clue what it's for, right? But wait, I'll show you.
Oh.
It's a Pilates ball, right? And it's not for me, it's for the dogs, right? So say you've got a dog that's got hip dysplasia and can't stand for any length of time, but the pressure of a belly strap, for example, is maybe too much for them. Then you can place an appropriate size Pilates balls underneath the stomach, and that gives them enough padding and support. Just the same way, like a belly band would, to basically support them in a stance position while you're working on them.
But they don't have all the feeling of everything around the sides and
exactly,
restricted,
So that was when I bought last week.
Have you used it?
No, not yet, because I'm on maternity leave now. Although I'll maybe try it on my wee poodle actually. She's looking at it, she's like, no.
You try that with my Labrador and she'll just eat it.
Probably think it's a toy, wouldn't they? It was actually it was a summit that I attended. Dr. what was her name? She's a holistic doctor, like a holistic vet, and she uses it in her practice. And she was demonstrating it on an arthritic Labrador, and it worked. It actually worked. It was Tai Chi or something she did for dogs. Really cool. And she used them instead of like your belly straps, and the dog actually you could see the dog relax on the ball. And I just thought, that's a really good approach to implement into the grooming environment where appropriate. Some dogs, it might not be appropriate for them. It's all adaptation, isn't it?
Well, I suppose, the vets must be going through a similar revolution as we are, with different schools of thoughts, different ways of doing things, hydrotherapy, like you said, like all the different therapies that they're starting to explore and use on animals.
Yeah, definitely. I think groomers as well. I think usually we don't really have a good relationship with vets, or we don't tend to. I think we get talked down to quite a bit as well. What I've found is the more I've highlighted this approach to like surrounding vets and different pet professionals, is that actually, we're in a very good position to, be really good assets to their businesses, because we're seeing them regularly. So we can see the sudden changes, can't we? Yeah. We can identify the early signs of, distress or illness or whatever it is. So I think I think they're having kind of that epiphany now where they're starting to recognise groomers as a valuable asset to their business as well.
I hope so. And, there's many groomers that will be watching this or in the group that have saved pets' lives because they've found lumps, bumps and conditions and referred them to the vets or asked the guardian to take them to the vets. It should be a joined up. And I think there's some respect. I hope there's some respect down our way, because we've actually opened the vets. we actually employ a vet now on a Monday. So obviously that vet's got enough respect to come and work in a pet groomers, offering vaccination clinics and stuff like that. So
and it's all the more important that's my point as well. It's all the more important for groomers to be aware of canine behaviour and communication, because it's the early signs of illness that are significant. Because obviously dogs are so stoic, they're maybe in pain for years or even months, but maybe even years before anything's actually identified, whereas we're in that really valuable position where we can identify the kind of early signs of disease and illness before it's advanced. So having those kind of skills to actually pick up on subtle changes to their behaviour and how they kind of, react to different touches and whatever is very significant.
So we talked a lot about dogs. Is there any other, cats? Do you go anywhere near cats?
I personally don't train. I was going to say train cats. I don't train cats. I don't groom cats. However, the Holistic Grooming Academy are very interested in cats, and we have brought on board a really experienced cat groomer, holistic cat groomer, and she's wrote her own course for the HGA, which is going through accreditation at the moment.
Good.
So that's really exciting, because they deserve it as well, and it's kind of more demand for it now as well, I found. So yeah, I've learned a lot while editing her course. So maybe one day.
So will that be dogs and cats combined, or will you take a separate
courses?
So separate modules.
Yeah. The cat one that she's written is a certificate level, so it's slightly less advanced, and it's for already practicing cat groomers. So cat groomers already know the technique and the different blades and things to use in comparison to dogs, etc. So they already have that behind them. And this is just kind of more focused on how to make it more holistic and cat-centered.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Cool. So you got all that going on, and you're just about to have your third child.
Okay.
You don't rest, and I can tell that you don't rest because, like I said earlier, you're a best-selling author as well of a couple of books. Tell us what motivated you to go out and write some books.
I was right. The first book, so The Magic of Holistic Grooming, was dipping my toes into the industry, this sector of the industry. So it was before I launched the academy, and it was just to get a feel for what people's responses would be, because obviously I didn't want to, it's really expensive to take your qualification through that process. I didn't want to invest without having an actual interest in it. So the book was basically a stepping stone to that. Didn't expect it to go as well as it did, but it did, and I was thankful for it, obviously. Excuse me, I'm burping, this is horrible. Pregnancy, I'm blaming it on. The children's picture book was just being a parent, obviously, and knowing more about canine behaviour. Living in a multi-dog household, it's such an important topic. And because I love writing, it just made sense to publish one. And I'm in the process of publishing my next book. Yeah. But I think this one you'll like, though. It's less texty. So a lot of people were saying that, the idea and the concept of the book was good, but they just couldn't concentrate in text. So this one's more...
Sorry, the Holistic Groomer one.
Yeah, Whereas this one's kind of more putting it into a photo reference manual so that they can actually quickly refer to. So what does Stephanie mean by that? Okay, I can look it up and there's the pictures to demonstrate it step by step type thing. So that's what that will be coming soon.
And you looked at getting your books onto Audible. Can we listen to them? Anything like that? Have you looked at that?
I thought about it. I've got a Yeti mic, but I'm not comfortable with my voice, so I might hire someone to do it, maybe.
I think I listen to a lot of Audible and audiobooks, and I think that they're completely different when you have the author reading them.
Do you think so?
Yeah, because you pick up on different tones, and you'll express things differently to how just a normal employed reader would.
So your point, yeah. So just grow a set and do it, Seth.
It's got to be you, whilst your baby in one hand, your microphone in the other.
I know, screaming babies, barking dogs. It's terrible, isn't it? But yeah, no, that you should be writing a book. Well, the advice you give. Yeah,
I'm a bit trapped at the moment because I suppose I've left a career in the police, so I've got 19 years worth of policing in me to write about. Potentially, and I actually thought of the first couple of paragraphs the other night actually, and it starts with I looked over to my mate and said, "I've had enough of this."
Everyone goes through that moment, don't they? Although policing's quite a tough industry, isn't it?
I can remember the day. It was a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, and I was just getting out of an ambulance because a burglar was trying to die on me. And I looked to my friend Jack and just said, "I've had enough of this." Yeah. I've really had enough of it. So I thought that was quite a good opening paragraph to it. But
funny.
Sorry,
it's funny as well, isn't it?
In a way, I mean, the whole story was kind of, well, I don't know. He didn't die. That's the main thing. So,
that's good.
So I've got the policing side, but yes, there's definitely working on plans for a book around the business program and how to help people with business. And I'm trying to strong arm the other mentors that I work with, Robin, Lauren, Zoe, Louise, to all come on board and write like a couple of chapters each,
really good.
all around how we deliver our sort of business program. But the book thing scares me a little bit. It's a big commitment in my eyes.
It's actually not though. It's not. See, if you just do like a chapter a day or a chapter every couple of days, it's actually, because I signed up to a program. It was like a 90-day challenge type thing. So I had literally 90 days to write the book. But it kind of pushes you into it, because if you know what you want to write, it kind of flows anyway. And see, as soon as you stop thinking about it, it just flows. So yeah, and it's really easy to self-publish. So
is that what you did with your the Dog Detective book?
Dog Detective one was more of a headache than the first book, because the Dog Detective one is a stupid dimension and I can't get it on Amazon. So you find me twice, maybe sometimes twice a week, running to the post office having to deliver the books. So
tell us a little bit about it. What's the book about?
The Dog Detective one is all about safe interaction between children and dogs. So it's an interactive and fun educational resource. It has to be educational if it's me. Educational resource for children, and I would say probably ages 4 to 9. And I'll show you. In fact, I've got it. I'll show you inside it. So I nearly fell. So recently I've put together these things here. So it's like it's like an activity pack. Yeah. So it comes with a wee magnifying glass, because they're detectives, obviously. And throughout the book, there's magnifying glass prompts to different signals that the dog is giving off in each page. So the idea behind it is for the parent or the carer to say to the child, okay, so what do you see here? What do you think the dog's happy in this one? Or, it's taking them through it step by step, and it's kind of showing them kind of common scenarios from within the family home, but also out with the family home, and how best to approach the dog in those circumstances. So it's really fun, and it features 3 of my dogs are featured in it, and some of my clients' dogs are featured in it.
Wow. Sorry, behaviours.
Yeah. In fact, my wee dog that passed away, Jessica, she's featured in it as well. So I'm glad that I featured her.
I was going to mention it.
I know. Do you know, it's a part of life, isn't it? But you just don't realise how much it affects you until it happens, and then you just think. But that was a learning curve as well, because I always say, you know your dog better than anybody else. And for months I'd been saying there's something wrong with Jess. And it's just subtle things in her behaviour. Like I said, it was different. And the vets were like, well, who do you think you are? You're not a vet. Stephanie, shoot, go away. But they did do tests and everything, but they just kept coming back inconsistent, to the point where I actually asked to go to a specialist. So found a specialist in Glasgow. Honestly, it was horrible. Went to the specialist in Glasgow and told me to go away for them to do scans and whatever of her bladder. 20 minutes later, they phoned me and they said, Stephanie, you need to come back. It's not good news. So came back and they said, she's still under sedation right now, because we had to take a urine sample directly from her bladder. And then also give her a wee kind of abdominal scan as well. And they found it was transitional cell sarcoma, basically bladder cancer. Yeah. So advanced stages, so I had been, there for a while, and gave me the options. Literally, she wasn't going to last, more than a week, and said to me, probably kind of just euthanizing her while she's under. So I went to get my husband, who was waiting outside, obviously bawling, and came back and said, okay, bring her through. And she'd already passed.
Oh, wow.
So it was just a shock, I think, that, but it just makes you realise that if you've got that niggle, just keep pushing for it, because there's obviously something wrong,
Yeah. Animals and humans.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would never ever say to a client that came in, if they said, you know, my dog's not feeling right or whatever, I would never just brush it off. I'd always say to them, well, if you think that, then you need to take them to the vets, you know. Yeah.
Well, I did promise I wasn't going to bring that up.
I've not cried though, so it's a good thing.
That's good. So what age range is the Dog Detective book?
From about 4 years to 9 years, I would say. And
how do people get hold of it?
Through me, directly through me. So because I have to ship it individually, I tried to put it through once a month, but it was like bundles that was having to, and it was quite a lot of like kind of lifting about and stuff. So I just now send it as and when I get an order. Yeah. And I literally live like 2 minutes from town, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, wheelbarrow full of books going down
I had
town.
a suitcase, a big green suitcase I would take. It just looked ridiculous. I was like, there must be a better way. I'm gonna have to investigate, but ideally I'm looking for a publishing company to take it on, because then it'll be easier for me then that way.
Well, if anyone's listening that owns a publishing company.
No, if you're a publishing company, please take me on. But yeah.
So if people obviously want to start investigating holistic grooming, then the magic of holistic grooming is probably the first sort of port of call with getting the book of Amazon. So just have a look at the magic of holistic grooming, and then the CPD course. I take it you've got a website that they can go on to have a look at that.
Yeah, I mean they can find the course on CPD UK website itself, because it's there obviously. Otherwise they can go onto the Thinkific page, which is quite a lengthy one, so I'd probably be better typing it up on the thread.
Yeah,
it's quite like courses.holisticgroomingacademy.com. That's it, but I'll write it up anyways in case anyone is interested. But it isn't for everyone, like I say. I mean, it is a niche, but I think that everyone could benefit from it. Definitely. So yeah. And
then watch this space for your level 6.
Yeah, so hopefully that. Well, I'm meeting them on the 7th of June to see where we're at with the process of getting it officially. And I'm also in the process of negotiating with an insurance company as well, so that it's definitely insurable, because I would never have it there if I thought that you couldn't get insurance for it, if you know what I mean. So, but they seem pretty optimistic too, so hopefully by next year.
Then what? Obviously you've got to go and have your third child.
I don't know, I might pass out with the stress and just never go back to work again, but no, I don't know what's coming next. I think I'm just quite happy teaching at the moment, and I'm so happy I've got qualified now as well, because it's one less thing for people to throw in my face. So,
a bit of weight off your shoulders.
It's a massive weight, because I just little changes to it, that's all it needed. I'm quite happy now that I passed in my terms, so yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll let you go and leave you to your evening. Thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, thank you, Bill. No, honestly, I was looking forward to it.
Yeah, and speaking about holistic grooming, and hopefully we'll catch up probably next year now to see how the qualifications coming along.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for listening as well.
No
if you are. See you later, Bill.
Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.